He'd say, "That never happened," or "You're imagining things." I started to doubt my own memory. That's gaslighting, when someone rewrites your reality until you can't trust yourself. Here's how I finally broke free. I was standing in the middle of our kitchen, holding a grocery receipt that proved he was 30 miles away when he claimed to be at the office. And yet, my hands were shaking, not with anger, but with confusion. When I showed it to him, he did not flinch. He laughed, a soft, pitying sound that made my skin crawl. He told me I was becoming obsessive, that the date on the thermal paper must be a glitch, or more likely, that I was simply losing my grip. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Sarah, I am worried about your memory. This is getting scary." In that moment, I did not trust the paper in my hand. I trusted the calm in his voice. That is how it starts. They rewrite your reality until you are a stranger to yourself, trapped in a world where the floor is the ceiling, and the truth is whatever they decide it is today. I am going to show you how I dismantled that trap, and how you can reclaim your mind before you lose your life to a ghost. I remember the beginning felt like a fever dream. It moved so fast I barely had time to breathe. He called me his soulmate within 2 weeks. He was texting me from morning until night, a constant stream of validation that felt like a did not know I was addicted to. I thought I had finally found someone who truly saw me, but looking back, he was not looking at me. He was studying me. He was gathering the blueprints to my insecurities so he could build a cage out of them later. He used that early intensity to create a version of himself that was perfect, a false self designed to mirror everything I wanted. It is a classic tactic that people call love bombing, but in the moment, it just feels like finally being understood. It is not about love. It is about a hostile takeover of your emotional landscape. Every conversation we had back then was like a fast-moving current. He wanted to know every detail of my past, every dream, every secret fear I had ever whispered into a pillow. At the time, I thought it was intimacy. I thought I was being cherished. I did not realize he was conducting a forensic audit of my soul. He was looking for the cracks in my armor so he could wedge a crowbar into them later. He would tell me things like, "I have never met anyone who understands me like you do," or, "The people in my past were so to my spirit, but you are my healer." This is future faking at its most pernicious. He was promising a life of mutual support and deep connection that he had no intention of actually providing. He was just using those promises as bait to keep me swimming toward him, unaware of the jagged rocks just beneath the surface. I started to feel like I was walking on eggshells, but the floor was made of glass, and he was the one throwing the stones. Every time I tried to bring up a concern, he would find a way to make me feel like I was the aggressor. If I mentioned that he seemed distant, he would tell me that my neediness was his drive to be successful for our future. He made me feel like my very existence was a burden he was saintly enough to carry. This is how they erode your boundaries. They make you feel like your needs are symptoms of a mental illness. I began to apologize for things I had not even done. I apologized for the weather, for the traffic, for the way the sun hit the curtains. I was shrinking myself to fit into the tiny, dark box he had built for me. The isolation was not a sudden wall. It was a slow-growing hedge. First, it was a comment about how my best friend always seemed to be competing with me. Then, it was a subtle suggestion that my parents did not really respect my choices. He made himself the only safe harbor in a world he convinced me was hostile. I did not see that he was my support system until I looked at my phone one night and realized I had not had a real conversation with anyone else in months. He had successfully built a fortress around me, but he was the only one with the key. When you are isolated, you lose the ability to check your reality against anyone else's. His voice becomes the only voice, and his truth becomes the only truth. This is how a person with a strong mind is slowly into submission. The shift was subtle at first, a joke at my expense that felt a little too sharp, a sigh of disappointment when I spent time with my sister. He started making me feel like my friends were draining and that only he truly had my back. He was firewalling me, cutting off my external sources of truth so that he could become my only lens for reality. Whenever I tried to point out his behavior, he would flip the script. If I caught him in a lie, suddenly I was the one who was unstable or too sensitive. He would use my own past against me, telling me that my childhood experiences made me hyper-vigilant and paranoid. He was not just lying about his actions, he was my confidence in my own perception. I started noticing the triangulation soon after. He would mention an ex-girlfriend out of nowhere, talking about how she still texted him or how she was the only one who ever truly supported his career. It was a calculated move to make me feel insecure, to make me compete for a position I already held. He was bringing a third person into our private dynamic to create a sense of scarcity. He wanted me to feel like I could be replaced at any moment if I did not work harder to please him. It worked. I found myself trying to be the perfect partner, the one who never complained, the one who anticipated his every need. I was working myself too emotionally just to keep the peace. He would leave his phone face down on the table, but then leave it face up when he knew a message from a female colleague would pop up. He wanted me to see it. He wanted to watch the flicker of doubt in my eyes so he could call me jealous. It was a psychological designed to keep me in a state of constant anxiety. When you are anxious, you are easy to control. Your brain is so busy trying to solve the puzzle of their behavior that you do not notice they are stealing the floor from under your feet. He was using these people as pawns in a game I did not even know I was playing. Then came the intermittent reinforcement. It is the most part of the cycle. Just when I was ready to pack a bag, he would transform back into the man I first met. He would plan a beautiful dinner, listen to me with rapt attention, and tell me how much he loved me. My brain, starved for affection, would soak it up like a dry sponge. I would tell myself that the nasty version of him was just a result of stress or a bad day. I was addicted to the relief of his kindness. This is exactly how people are into staying in difficult situations. You are not staying for the pain. You are staying for the moments when the pain stops. You are gambling on a machine that is programmed to make you lose. But that one small payout keeps you pulling the lever until you are bankrupt. The most terrifying part was the nice and nasty split. One day, he would be the charming, attentive partner who brought me flowers, and the next, He was a cold, distant stranger who treated me with utter contempt. This is like a slot machine effect. Because he gave me those occasional rewards of kindness, my brain stayed hooked, waiting for the next win, enduring the abuse in hopes of getting that good version of him back. I realized later that the good version was the mask. The nasty version was the truth. He was projecting all of his own internal shame and his own dishonest tendencies onto me. When he accused me of being selfish or untrustworthy, he was actually giving me a confession of his own character. I remember a specific night when the mask slipped completely. I had questioned why he was home so late, and the look in his eyes changed. It was like the person I knew had vanished, and something cold and hollow had taken its place. He did not yell. He just leaned in and whispered that my jealousy was destroying the relationship. He said that everyone else saw how difficult I was being, and that he was the only one willing to put up with me. This is the victim-bully cycle. He had caused the distress, but the moment I reacted to it, he became the victim of my reaction. He made me apologize for being hurt. He made me feel like the terminator of our happiness. The isolation became a physical weight. I stopped calling my mother because he would scoff and say I was too enmeshed with her. I stopped going to happy hour with my coworkers because he would imply that I was looking for attention from other men. He was slowly my connections to the outside world until he was the only person left standing in the room. He wanted me to have no one to run to when things got bad. He wanted me to doubt my own value so deeply that I would believe no one else would ever want me. He was regulating his own fragile ego by mine. I found myself looking in the mirror and not recognizing the woman staring back. Her eyes were dull. Her skin looked gray, and she looked like she was waiting for a blow that was never physical, but always he had taken my vibrant, ambitious personality and sit on the altar of his own need for control. I was a shell. I was a ghost haunting my own life. I would sit in my car after work for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, just because it was the only place where no one was telling me that my thoughts were wrong. It was the only place where the air felt like it belonged to me. I finally stopped arguing when I realized I was playing a game where the rules changed every time I started to win. I was trying to use logic on a person whose entire existence was built on a foundation of grandiosity and the need for attention and fear. He did not want a resolution. He wanted a reaction. He wanted me small, confused, and dependent. The moment I broke free was not a loud confrontation. It was a silent, internal click. I stopped explaining myself. I realized that no is a complete sentence. I adopted a method of becoming as boring and unreactive as a gray rock. When he tried to bait me into an argument, I gave him one-word answers. I stopped sharing my dreams, my fears, and my successes because I knew he would only use them as weapons later. I put myself on an information diet and treated him like a difficult business associate rather than a partner. I started documenting everything. I had a hidden folder on my phone where I kept screenshots, dates, and summaries of our conversations. When he would say, "I never said that," I would go to the bathroom, lock the door, and read the text where he said exactly that. It was my lifeline. It was the thread that led me out of the labyrinth. I stopped trying to convince him of the truth and started convincing myself. That is the key. You cannot win an argument with a person who uses words as weapons rather than tools for communication. You win by refusing to enter the arena. One of the most profound realizations I had during this time was the concept of the false self. He was not a whole person. He was a collection of traits he had stolen from people more interesting than him. When he was with me, he adopted my hobbies and my values. When he moved on to someone else, he became a completely different version of himself. He was a hollow vessel that needed to be filled with someone else's light because he had none of his own. Realizing this stripped away the mystery. He was not a complex, tortured genius. He was a simple, repetitive machine driven by a desperate need for validation. The shame I felt for staying was the hardest thing to overcome. I felt like a failure because I had let someone treat me this way. But the truth is, narcissists do not target weak people. They target strong, empathetic, and successful people because we have more supply to give. They want to consume your strength to bolster their own weakness. If you are in this, it is not because you are stupid or broken. It is because you were generous and saw potential where there was only a void. Forgiving myself was the final step in the process of reclaiming my identity. If you are in this right now, you have to accept a hard, cold truth. They will not change. There is no potential version of them that will suddenly emerge if you just love them enough or explain it clearly enough. They lack the empathy required to care about the they are putting you through. You must trust your own records. Start a journal. Write down what happened, the date, and the time. When they try to tell you that never happened, go back and read your own words. Your memory is not the problem. Their pathology is. You have to implement a strict policy of never defending, engaging, explaining, or personalizing. Their attacks are not about your worth. They are a reflection of their own internal void. The recovery process is not linear. You will have days where you miss the person you thought they were. You have to grieve that person as if they actually, because in reality, they never existed. That soulmate was a costume they wore to get inside your house. You are not missing a man. You are missing a mirage. You must practice radical acceptance. Accept that they are incapable of seeing your pain. Accept that they will likely go on to find a new target and play the same role for them. It is not because the new person is better, smarter, or more appealing. It is because the narcissist is a predator who always needs a new source of supply to keep their false self alive. They will try to hoover you back in. They will send a message out of the blue, perhaps a photo of a place you once visited, or a simple, "I saw this and thought of you." Do not fall for it. This is not nostalgia. It is a fishing expedition. They are checking to see if the hook is still in your lip. They want to know if they still have the power to ruin your afternoon with a single notification. Every time you respond, you are handing them the keys to your mental health. You have to change the locks. You have to be the one who decides that the cycle ends with you. If you can, go no contact. Block the phone number, the social media, and the mutual friends who act as their messengers. If you have to communicate due to children or work, keep it strictly to logistics and keep every interaction in writing. You are not crazy. You are being systematically destabilized by a person who is terrified of being seen for who they truly are. Stop looking for closure from the person who your peace of mind. The closure comes from you when you decide that your reality is no longer up for debate. You have to be the one to save yourself. And the first step is believing your own eyes again. Radical acceptance is your greatest weapon. You must accept that the person you loved was a character played by an actor. Stop hoping for the return of the love bombing phase, because that person does not exist. Make yourself as uninteresting as possible to them. Do not show emotion, whether it is anger or sadness, because your emotion is the fuel they crave. Keep your communication brief and factual. Stop sharing your inner world, because information is weaponized by these individuals. Do not share good news, bad news, or even your indifference. Stick to neutral topics like the weather. To counter the rewriting of your history, keep a log of every conversation. Trust your own written record over their spoken word. The most effective way to heal is to sever all ties. If that is impossible, minimize contact strictly to logistics. Seek out people who validate your reality and find a professional who understands the specific weight of this kind of bond. You are reclaiming your sanity, one boundary at a time. As you walk away, they might launch a smear campaign. They will tell anyone who will listen that you were the abusive one, that you were the one who heard them in the back. This is their final attempt to control the narrative. Let them talk. The people who truly know you will not be swayed by the desperate ramblings of a person who cannot take responsibility for their own actions. Silence is your most powerful rebuttal. When you do not defend yourself against their lies, you prove that their opinions no longer have the power to move you. You are building a new life on a foundation of truth, and that is something they can never understand. You are going to have to rebuild your world from the ground up, but this time, the foundation will be solid. You will learn to trust your intuition again, that quiet voice in the back of your head that you were trained to ignore. It was right all along. Your gut was telling you something was wrong before the first lie was ever spoken. Listening to that voice is how you ensure this never happens again. You are not a victim of your past. You are the architect of your future. Every day you spend away from their chaos is a day you win. Remember that their power depends entirely on your participation. They need you to defend yourself so they can tell you that you are defensive. They need you to scream so they can call you aggressive. When you stop participating, their game falls apart. They might escalate. They might try to at you with their words one last time, or launch a smear campaign against you. Let them. The people who believe their lies were never your real friends anyway. Your only job is to protect your peace and rebuild the life they tried to wreck. You are the narrator of your own story now, and nobody gets to hold the pen but you. I know how heavy this feels, but I want you to look at how much strength it took just to survive until today. You have a clarity now that they can never take away. If this story resonated with you, or if you are currently navigating your own way out of the fog, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are building a community where reality is respected and your voice is heard. My advice to you right now is simple. Start your journal today and do not look back. If you encounter them again, remember the gray rock. Do not give them a single drop of your precious energy. You are not alone in this, and you are far stronger than the person trying to break you. Keep choosing yourself, keep trusting your gut, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe and stay strong.